Welcome to A Canadian Investing in the U.S., a podcast and YouTube channel focused on Canadians buying real estate with host Glenn Sutherland.
Welcome to a new episode of A Canadian Investing in the U.S. This week, my guests are Matt Lidstone and McConomy. Guys, you want to give us a bit of an intro, and then we'll get into it.
Yeah, sure.
You guys are looking at each other. Who gets to talk first?
So we're obviously Matt Lidstone, McConomy. We're Canadian investors who've primarily been doing flips and burrs in Canada for about 5 years. And we recently, in the last year, we started going down to the US and checking out things there. And that's where we met you at Brady's Mastermind. And then obviously we followed up with some training with you, and that was all good. We learned lots. And ever since then, we started doing some STR in Florida. So we're down in South Florida, Southeast, in like the Fort Lauderdale area, Pompano Beach. And we're doing arbitrage there. We're looking to do some co-hosting, a whole bunch of other stuff.
Awesome. Matt just mentioned that they did training with me, and I think they're a perfect example. You don't have to be newbies. These guys were super pros off the start, and my coaching is not expensive. All you need is a couple little tips, and it's probably paid for itself. Anyway, there's my blurb for that.
Shameless. No, we did learn a lot, especially about the nuances of getting the financing in your structure and all that stuff in place, right? So
awesome.
It's a big help. Yep.
Okay, so let's talk about this. So you went down to the U.S. You started investing. Let's talk about kind of how that transition went, how the properties, what you're working on, just the whole kind of story of how that all went.
So we went down to a mastermind, Brady's last August, and we just started looking in the Cape Coral area to purchase. And when we were there, we were just noticing we were wondering what other areas we could look into, and we kind of landed in South Florida. That was kind of where our heart is. The numbers are really strong there, so that's how we ended up over there. And because of the way the market is today and interest rates and things like that, we started looking into purchasing there. But the areas we're looking at are right by the beach, so it's $25,000 in property tax every year, $20,000 in insurance. So all of those things didn't make you cash flows, but we were like, well, if we rent it, then we have very fixed costs. We know exactly what we're doing. We don't have to worry about those two costs, which are huge.
Yep.
And it's turned out to be pretty profitable going down this route. And it's an awesome way to test out the market before, going full in and buying properties and just making sure it's the area you want to be in. That's
awesome. So you just mentioned, what strategy are you guys trying to use there?
So we do arbitrage. So we're basically renting long-term from landlords, and with their permission, we're turning around and Airbnb it.
Okay. And I saw you guys doing a lot of renovations on you or TikTok, or not TikTok, Facebook. And I'm like, how does that play into this whole thing?
So the first landlord we had, I guess, didn't do a great clean, and so we just did some minor things, painting and fixing things, but nothing major for renovations.
Yeah, I think it was painting pictures or videos that I saw, and I was like, they're busy working.
And there was one of an outdoor kitchen. We actually got a lot of questions of that. They're like, wow, you put in an outdoor kitchen, that's expensive. You do that in someone else's house. But no, the landlord was on board. He saw an opportunity to improve his property and something he wanted to do, and we allowed him to, take a month to get that done before we took it.
Awesome. So we haven't talked a lot about arbitrage. I had another guy from the mastermind come on and talk about it, but that was probably a year ago. So we haven't really talked a lot about that. Maybe high level, what is it? Because you touched on it a little bit, maybe just a little bit more so people understand what you're actually doing down there.
So like I said, we're approaching landlords. We look in certain areas. We want to be really close to the beach. You want to have, heated pool, all the, everything as close to the water as you can. So we look for rentals in that area, and it's kind of a good opportunity right now because there's a lot of houses sitting on the market, not moving. So you can even approach people who are for sale and see if you can rent their property long term. Yeah. So there's a lot of opportunity to think outside the box. But essentially what we're doing is we approach landlords. They know that we're renting it long term on Airbnb. We actually have to get their permission for licensing. So it's all above board. They love it because we maintain their property better than a long-term renter would. We take care of it, we clean it. It's up to the highest of standards because we rent in very nice areas. So we actually take better care of it. So landlords like us for that reason.
How do you know if it's like, because you're probably approaching lots of people to do this. Like, how do you know if it's actually going to be a good project or not? Like, what kind of numbers is it that you kind of, maybe I'm giving away your secret sauce, but is it like,
We give it away all the time. Everyone asks and we just say we're open books. So yeah, I mean, I guess we obviously use like certain platforms like Airbnb. We have a software called B&B Calc, and basically we just run through all sorts of properties. Like Lori said, we look at for sale, we look at for rent, we start pumping them through, and Lori does most of it, the actual analyzing of the properties. And as long as it makes a few metrics work, like one of our basics is right off the hop, we want to make double rent as our revenue, right? So that gives us some wiggle room. We also want to have like minimum 240 days to get our money out. That way, anything beyond that is just gravy. And then hopefully we're going into year 2, year 3, year 4, where all of that's already paid off, right? So again, even better. The longer, the better for us. And yeah, it's just got to have certain metrics, especially for what we're trying to do. Like, it's gonna be different in different areas.
Yeah.
But obviously, where we are, where we want to be close to the beach, the closer the better. We aim for the strip of land between the intercoastal and the ocean, so you're a walk away. If not, we're looking for something that's backing on. It must have a pool. We're always looking for 4 beds or more, just because anything less than that is super saturated in those areas. Maybe it works somewhere else, but in these areas, that's what we're looking for.
We also look for like a certain occupancy rate in that area. We want to make sure that it's trending up. We want to make sure that, it hasn't become oversaturated in the last year or two. So we look for all those metrics too.
Awesome. And like when you're talking about those areas, because I bought some a little bit farther north up the coast, in like Palm Bay and Brevard County, over Cocoa Beach, up in that area anyway. But insurance, as you get close to the water, tends to be really expensive. But as doing an arbitrage, you're not going to have to deal with some of these problems of having this beach location, right? But that's kind of awesome, right?
It is awesome
because it's expensive, and like they've even changing my rates midterm right now because they're like, oh, there's a hurricane coming in, your rates are going up, or we're moving your coverage. I'm like, is this legal? Anyway,
on the fly?
Yeah, on the fly.
Down after the hurricane passes.
That's why I bought insurance. Anyway, property management. Do you guys manage it? Do you get someone else to do that? October 21st, we are hosting a conference in Mississauga at the Doubletree. We have some amazing speakers lined up: Brady McDonald, Quentin D'Souza, Felix Vortman, Arlen Bonin, myself, Adam Rass, Ali Ajami, Brent Green. The conference is called Canadians Investing in U.S. Multifamily. If you're looking for more information, please go to glensutherland.com/conference.
Yep.
No, yeah, we manage it ourselves here from Canada. So the most important thing to do is go down and build your team. So we have 2 homes in the Pompano area right now. Yep. And we, have a cleaner who's awesome. She knows our standards. She knows what we're looking for. So every time we see a new property that we're interested in, she's our eyes. She goes and looks at it, does a video walkthrough with us, and we ask all kinds of questions. So she's awesome. Another house across the street, the guy's very handy. So if we ever need anything, he takes out our trash. He will blow up an inflatable for the pool, whatever we need, he'll just run over and do it for us. So he's awesome that way too. So we need those people for those little things that come up. But for the major things like guest communication, organizing the cleaners, maintenance, we do all that from Canada.
No, that was a great tip with the neighbors, because that's like ongoing repeat thing I hear with a lot of people. Is I had someone else was on and their property flooded, and the neighbors called them. They're like, hey, I called the city and got your water turned off, but your place was flooding. I saw water coming out. They wouldn't have known, right?
Yeah.
They wouldn't have known. So
yeah, this guy's great. He sees a package on the front door. He goes over and gets it. And he'll build it at his house and then bring it over. Even the one that's not right across the street, he'll drive over and set up a games room for us. He completely built the games room for us. So yeah, really good guy.
How does
Oh,
it
yeah, all sorts
work
of.
for you guys using it personally? I know that, just like me, the tricky part with some of this is that kids in school and but like now that you have this place, you have the opportunity to go use it. How often do you go and, just go check out your place and have we have to do a business inspection trip and
Well, unfortunately for us, our business inspection really is business. So
yeah,
every time we go there, it's like 99.9% of the time we're there for business.
yeah,
We don't even see the sun or the beach. Like we're just hustling.
yeah,
But we are there like every 6 to 8 weeks. It's either because something needs maintenance, we're getting a new property, we're viewing something. So we are back and forth enough. And so even to the point where, we don't want to hinder the money that's coming in. So like we'll go stay there and we'll leave the days unblocked. And then if somebody books it, we'll just use our points and go stay at a hotel or something because our places average like $700 US a night, right? So
yeah.
we'll just go stay in a hotel for like $200 and then make some money while we're there if we need to, right? So that's kind of how it's worked for us so far.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'd like to enjoy it someday.
That's the thing. Like you slowly work. I guess I was about to say, well, you slowly pay it off, and I'm like, but no, you're doing it. It's just a different strategy, and which is awesome. Like, honestly, I'd love to get doing some of these myself, which I still get all hung up on buying the property, which is honestly, I think a lot of people we've all read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and we get hung up on actually the ownership of the property, but if the underlying issue or not an issue, but the underlying theme is to get the cash flow from it, not and
That's
especially
it,
if
yeah.
you're talking, we're in a shady market right now, right? And honestly, you have less risk, right?
Yeah, we have
I sleep
very
so
little
well at
risk.
night because I'm not worried about interest rates. I know we're in really good areas that even if tourism slows down, like we're a walk to the beach, you're always going to be one of the first ones picked, right? And I just sleep better knowing that I'm not worried if things don't go well, we'll have to sell. And if everyone's trying to sell, you're not going to sell, right? In this case, like the house we just got about a week ago, we just have to give them 1 month's notice. So if things aren't going well or a natural disaster hits the area, we'll be like, here's our notice, and then we just pick up and leave. So I love that because if there was ever a natural disaster in that area, I mean, chances are people aren't going to want to stay there for a year or two. And then what do you do with your property, right? So I love that idea that you can just pick up and go and move when you need to.
Yeah, it's interesting too. Yeah, like
The great thing about it too that I love is that it's a lot less of an investment too, right? So especially as foreign nationals, you're investing,
that's a
in
good
the
point.
US. If you don't have a US partner,
Yeah,
you're paying horrible interest rates, horrible loan to value, especially now in this market. So this way, we don't even have to worry about any of that. Right?
yeah,
And when we go to do a project, if we want to do private lending, um, our ask is so much lower. So everybody else, or when we were doing flips or burrs or whatever, we'd be asking for $350,000, right?
yeah,
That's a huge amount. What we're asking is still a pretty big amount, but we're looking for like 30,000
yeah.
for 6 months. Like it's a much easier ask and a lot easier to get. Most people have that in a credit line or a TFSA or something, so it's not a big deal.
Yeah. No, that's great too, because you could raise the money still to do this strategy. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you guys working on right now these days? Hello, everybody. Thanks for listening to the podcast. I just wanted to let you know that I've created a new coaching program. I believe the new coaching program has way more value than any of the programs that have even existed in the past. What we've done is pre-recorded all the lessons so that you can work through it at your own pace, which is pretty cool. And then we're going to meet up on a regular basis to answer the questions, do deal analysis, and actually spend our time together working on things instead of spending our time learning things. I think this will make a seamless transition to buying in the United States and will help you solve a lot of your problems. If this is of interest to you, go to glensutherland.com/coaching. I hope to help you guys invest in the United States, and I hope we provide as much value as possible. Back to the podcast.
So we just launched our second property last week. So that's been going really well so far. And ever since we launched it, we've had people reaching out to us because they want us to design something for them. People are asking Matt for website design. So it's kind of interesting, like how once you kind of get immersed in this, how organically everything kind of happens after that, and even just obtaining properties and things like that, just as you get to know people down there. So we're actually looking to really expand on co-hosting this year.
Yep.
And just help people any way we can. If you need help with staging or buying furniture, we can help with that too.
That's awesome. That'd be a great way. It's the stepping stone to even, to getting there. Because I think a lot of it is, it's very intimidating to go down there, especially if you don't go. But like, just working with somebody else could be a great way to get into it. Matt, you mentioned doing some website design. So kind of off topic, but like, is it related to like building Airbnb websites, or what kind of stuff?
Yeah. I guess we're trying to, we see a niche, I guess, right?
Oh, yeah.
So we've got a few groups of people or groups of SDR hosts that were members of like a Facebook group.
Yeah.
And you see them just struggling to get like a direct booking site created, even with like their design. So for Lori, doing the interior design of an SDR specific to an SDR.
Yeah.
So I'm not just limiting it to SDR, but I'm focused on like pushing it to people in our groups that need help with creating their websites, maybe their slide decks, their pitches, the whole gambit, and just getting them in a good spot to be able to approach hosts and owners. So yeah, I created a whole bunch of websites in my life. So
yeah.
I saw that opportunity. So I reached out to people in our network, and I'm kind of making it available. I'm building one right now for somebody who's a pretty big STR guy in the States right now. So we'll see. I'm going to hopefully do a pretty good job there, and we can transition that into more business. But we're looking to just accommodate everything. Like we can, from start to finish, set up an STR for somebody, set up the automation, dynamic pricing, set up their website. We can do the design, we can stage it, we can be there for photos, make sure it's lifestyle photos, not just real estate. Yeah, just the whole thing. And then at the end of it, we either hand it to them, they host it, or we can co-host it after as well. So we can see it right through to the end.
That's awesome. So you just mentioned photos. Any tips for photos? Like, I know that I've seen like some horrible photos. Usually the ones that are on like the short-term rental sites, the Airbnb or the VRBOs, they're not as bad. They're usually, but I've seen like some realtor ones where the houses, the picture's upside down or sideways. I know that's the extreme bad. Yeah. But I don't know. I've heard some tips about like just, what kind of stuff are you looking for? You said lifestyle. What does lifestyle mean?
So you want it to feel like an inviting space, right? Like a lot of people, I think where you get it wrong is you hire like a realtor photographer to go through and take pictures, and everything's sort of from far and the whole room, but you kind of want close-up shots like of the table set, so you can like imagine yourself having dinner there. Some people even put people in the pictures now to show like people having a good time. Like if you ever look at, like some sort of like promotion from like the Hilton stuff, you always see people in their pools relaxing or having a drink, like they're trying to create an experience. So like that's what we kind of need to get to the next level, and not enough people do it. So it's just more about kind of creating that experience. So like we did one with like Coronas and ice, like right by the pool, and just stuff like that. So you can like picture yourself there, but like some people miss the mark with the photos, and like, so I was kind of like right on our photographer, and he's right behind him. I'm like, can you get this angle? Could you do this? And like, I'm sure he was ready to kill me, but they turned out awesome. I was really happy with them. But even to the point where we're going to go back to the first property and have them redone in a lifestyle way as well.
That's awesome. I stayed at a cottage in Kentucky a couple months ago, and what I thought was kind of cool, like before I even stayed there, is they had pictures of like the drawers, like what kind of silverware, because like I have some Airbnbs myself, and that's the questions you get, like, oh, we're gonna have like 8 people coming, is there 8 forks? And you're like, I don't know.
Like, what did we get asked the other day? Like some sort of like random appliance, and we're like,
air
fryer, yeah.
Which isn't a bad thing to have. Like it's very popular these days. Maybe it's something we add down the road, but
yeah,
we'll see if there's enough. We want to see if there's enough demand for it, something like that, before we start putting in our properties.
Well, that's the interesting thing about it. You're like, some people want it, but then if you put it in your photos, especially, then if it breaks, you have to replace it really, really
Yes.
fast for the next one because it's in the photos they expect it, or it's in the listing when they signed up. And you know, if it all of a sudden breaks, like the more stuff you have in there that could break will break.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And, yeah, we supply like all the stuff to go to the beach, and it's in all the photos, but when they get there, it may not be the same stuff. We will replace whatever gets lost or broken, but it may not look the same because you might not be able to get the same product or whatever. But yeah, and then one of the things that we've come across that we're starting to do is people really want to rent like baby furniture, for instance.
Mm.
And that's a big ticket. Like we went on and we were looking at the local companies that will rent and deliver and assemble the baby furniture. And it was like crazy prices, right? So
It's like 260 bucks to rent a crib for 8 days.
That's
yeah,
nuts.
And so we looked at that because she's like, well, I'll rent one, even though we had a pack and play and we had a cot,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
But she wanted specifically, she wanted a crib. And I was like, well, I looked on sites and they're all like $260. And then I looked at Walmart and it was like $100 to buy one. So I was like, tell you what, I'm like, they're all 260 here. I'll charge you $100. So now we charge her 100. It paid for itself. And we were actually thinking of like making a package out of it, like having some baby gates and like, you know, like a whole thing, and then just keep it at one location. And then if someone requests it at one of our locations, we rent it to them for like $60 or something, and just make an extra stream of income that way.
Yeah. The tricky part is like you have to have, well, you have a good team, right? The tricky part sometimes is getting that moved around and moved from place to place. And like you touched on like I can't think what those are called, like just the playpens or whatever. And I've seen a lot of those in pack and plays. I've seen those in like a lot of Airbnbs because it's just like whenever I had when my kids were of that age, like we were looking for it. We're like, does this? You were messaging like because we're like, where are we gonna put them, right? And then we ended up staying on that one when we were out in Newfoundland, and it was like they had like just a stroller, like a really base stroller, and we're like, cool. Like we just have to figure out how to get from the airport to there, and then we're good, right? And it had like a car seat in there, and we're like, and I think it was just their old stuff, right? But we're like gold, especially if you're, you know, because you're in Florida, people are traveling to Florida.
Yeah.
It's not usually like someone coming from, Jacksonville down. It's probably, well, that's still they probably still want it for that kind of distance, but like they're probably, vacationing, right? It's not there for work or a short drive or whatever, right? Like some people, for instance, like Ontario, and they can just go up north to Algonquin. It's like an hour drive, and it's it's a little closer. It's a little easier to take your stuff.
Yeah. Anything we can do to add value, yes, right? And it just more amenities, more value, the more they'll book with you over somebody else.
Awesome. I love it. Was there anything else I should have asked you that you wanted to talk about? I don't know. I just like to ask that question sometimes. I'm like, because we were chit-chatting before we started, and you were like, I'm like, I don't know if I missed something we were talking about.
Yeah, I think we covered this.
All right. Well, for your company, tell people what your company's name is, how they get a hold of you, how they find you, and then
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we have obviously a website. We have a few, but the one that's primarily for investors is allureproperties.co, not .com, .co.
Yep.
Basically it lists everything we do. There's the additional services, the websites, the design, co-hosting, the arbitrage, as well as investing with us, like in private lending and things like that. Everything to connect with us is on there. The links to like our property management site is there, so you can see the direct booking site if you wanted to book. That's pretty much the best way to get a hold of us. Or you can email us at invest@allureproperties.com.
That's awesome. I think you should probably get some traction from this, because I think the price point's good, like if someone wanted to invest, right? And everyone likes something in the hot area. Like I think it's I think you got really got something here. I think you're going to get some emails out of this.
I hope so.
Awesome. Anyway, thank you guys for coming on the show. I do really appreciate it. I think this was really cool, and I love to get my brain running again on something a little bit of a different subject. So this is great.
Yeah, no, thanks for having us. We really appreciate it.
That was a nice video. Bye.